jazzing up your day with a touch of soul. The Living Room on 938 Live.
Welcome into the Living Room on 938 Live. You're with me, Justine Moss. Well, in our ongoing series, which features the Channel 5 series On the Red Dot, producers Min Min, Rudy Osman and Alistair Ang, as well as host Cheryl Fox, are in the studio to tell us more about their new mini-series called Old School. Now, it airs tonight on Channel 5 and then on Sunday on Channel News Asia. Now, Old School will explore and celebrate the old school phenomenon, and they kick off the series with the episode titled Taste of Tradition. Well, I can guess what it is, where they explore wonderful foods and recipes from the past. And as I said, it airs later tonight. Welcome, guys.
Morning. How
Great.
are you doing?
Good, great to have you here. Thank you very much. Talking about something that's probably very close to most people's hearts, food. Yeah? Where did the inspiration for food come from?
Where did the inspiration come from?
Actually, we're gonna have this new series, Old School. Let me give you an overview about this entire series. So it's gonna be made up of 6 episodes. It debuts tonight, Wednesday, 9 p.m. on Channel 5. We decided to kick it off with the first episode based on something that everyone can connect with, that everyone's in love with. Food. And so that's Min Min's episode. It's called Taste for Tradition. Min Min, why didn't you tell everyone about the profiles that you found? She had some really interesting people that she's got in that episode.
Yeah, so one of the profiles I interviewed was this coffee shop in Northbridge Road, which is really old. Along Northbridge Road, you'd pass by like 3 or 4 coffee shops, but there's this one that will just look like it's from a pre-war era. And you'd see all these old elderly men sitting alone reading the newspapers and drinking coffee from the saucers. They would pour it out and let it cool.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, and the specialty there is this thing called butter with coffee.
Okay. It sounds interesting. Tell us more.
Well, it's just butter, basically.
In
with,
the coffee?
Coffee with, butter. So you put a slice of butter,
Apparently
Instead of milk?
It'll make your throat feel better.
That's what the owner says.
So is that instead of milk? They just put the butter?
It has milk as well, condensed milk, I think, but they would just add in a little...
It's like cholesterol in the cup.
Oh, exactly. Just in case you haven't had enough, here's a bit more.
Yeah, it's very thick.
The old school way, even the toast. It's still done over a charcoal flame.
Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. And how did you come across this coffee shop, Min Min?
Well, it was through a lot of research online and word of mouth, talking to people, and basically going around Singapore, like talking to, I think, more than 20 food vendors and people. And begging them to let me interview them and let me see their kitchen.
And then this gentleman, Uncle Shi is his name?
Yeah.
And he said yes.
Well, he kind of said no. He was like, I can't remember who came over to film at our coffee shop, and he rented a place and he paid us like thousands of dollars, I think a couple about thousand a day or in 10 days or something. So he was like, yeah, I want money. And I was like, we're a current affairs program, we record the news, so we don't really pay for anything like that. So I went back like 4 or 5 times, and I woke up at 2 a.m. one day to follow him because he starts work at, he leaves his house at 3 and he starts work at 4. Yeah, so I went kind of chilled him in the middle of the night, and I think he just got tired of seeing me there, and he was like, okay. And I said we would give him a little token and
wash his dishes, right?
Yeah.
His dishes.
No, and I bought some chicken essence, a box of carton of chicken essence.
Fantastic.
The things the producers do to make it happen.
Oh gosh, but
so that's Min Min's episode.
Yes.
And Alistair's got his episode as well.
Right. So my episode is about old school collectibles. So, I'm really related to the topic because I myself am also a collector, and I think quite a lot of people are collectors. And so one of the type of collectibles that I'm doing is quite unique. It's actually, I'm featuring this group of boys who collect bus memorabilia from like old Singapore buses. So buses from the 50s, the 60s, the 70s. the old SBS buses, all the the plates in the front of the buses. So, and it's very interesting that these guys are like 20 years. So the youngest guy is like 15, and the oldest is like 23. So
how
these
do
are
they,
young guys who are really interested in the old school.
and where did they get that interest from? I mean, their grandparents, or how did they develop that interest?
I spoke to them individually. Most of them are usually, they began as enthusiasts of like vehicles, like cars, trains, and but then they zoomed in on buses. I think because there's a lot of history behind, especially buses in Singapore, how it evolved, from like privatized companies into what transportation is today.
That would have been quite a fun episode, though.
Yeah, it was definitely very fun to do. So I went to this guy's house. His name is Zakaria. He's 23 years old. And in his room, it's basically like it's like
a museum.
Back. it's like traveling back in time. Like basically, you see like all the old bus parts. Those coin boxes where you used to put the coins into the bus, and then he has that it's working. He's an engineering student, so all these he actually gets them from the scrapyard. They're broken, they're old and rusty, but he gets them, he refurbishes them, and he actually wires them all up himself.
Fantastic.
Yeah, and he has like a working like LED panel, which says the bus number.
Yeah.
Where it goes to, and he keys it in, and he can actually like change the route, the destination.
He's 23.
So I asked him like, can we put like on the red dot on the sign, to like plug the show a little bit, but no, I said no, he can't. He needs to do a lot of programming for that. Actually, if you want to, he can. He just needs some time. So I mean, he's quite a genius in his own right, lah.
So Alistair, again, how did you find these people? Again, like Min Min, a lot of research went into it.
Mine was relative compared to Min Min. She had quite a few days to seduce the uncle. For myself, it was straightforward. Facebook.
Okay.
Yeah, because these are young guys, and they call them, they're the Singapore bus spotters actually. So bus spotting is actually a hobby. It's actually quite a fairly large community of like maybe about 100 people, and what they do is that they're a community of like bus enthusiasts who take pictures of buses, talk about buses, and share with each other's photos, of the buses. And it's on a Facebook group, so that was how I got to know them.
But a bus version of train spotting, sort of.
Yeah,
fantastic. Thanks for sharing that, Alice. And that's next week, is that?
That's coming up the week after.
The week
actually.
after, okay.
Next week, it's about old school decor. But unfortunately, the producer couldn't be with us for this interview today. So
he's actually out filming right now. So
Ah.
that's going to be all about vintage furniture and old school household items.
Oh, wonderful.
From yesteryear. So I think that's going to be interesting because when you start looking at all the things that are being featured, you'll be like, I remember this in my grandmother's place, and I remember growing up with this. So my school's having these fittings and all that.
And they still last, which just goes to prove how well these things were made.
Exactly, because back in those days, things were built to last.
Yes, exactly. Not like today.
A lot of it was a lot of manual winding up and no batteries. And I think the entire series it's got a lot of character. We're going to be putting in a lot of facts and taking them on a walk to the past.
Oh, that's wonderful. And Rudy, how about you?
Episode.
I'm in the midst of stringing my episode together, but a story that's in the can is I'm doing an episode about 60s and 70s music in Singapore.
Oh,
so
nice.
that holds a lot of nostalgia for a lot of people. And the one story that I have in the can is I examined the Elvis tribute artist community. So it's really interesting to see a gang of uncles ranging from like 40 to the tail end of their 60s, getting together and
Do they have the hairstyles as well?
as much as possible they do, but
they've got the sideburns.
well,
Do you compete with the sideburns?
it depends because there's a weekly meeting. They have an official community and stuff. So basically, what they do is they get together in karaoke. But when I went to film them, I managed to convince them to come, like whoever had the jumpsuit and their favorite era of an Elvis dress to come on and just put on their Elvis swagger.
Brilliant.
Yeah, so
And they were quite happy to do that, I'm sure.
some took a bit of convincing because the last time they wore their costume was, well, on stage in some event probably a decade ago.
So you had to breathe in. They were worried about their waistline, maybe.
Well, Elvis did have various eras, so
Various waistlines.
So there are various, degrees of Elvis did have various degrees of fitness.
Fantastic. So when can we expect to view that one, really?
That one is set to be out a couple of weeks from now on December 10th.
Fantastic.
And more stories are being strung along. So another story is examining Singapore, the rock and roll scene in the 60s and 70s.
And there was quite a rock and roll scene, wasn't there?
from what I gather, with each passing day, I seem to learn more and more. Because I just scratched on the surface, and with each passing day, it seems everybody seems to have a friend who knows a little bit about something or another that is adding together into this interesting piece about a circuit as a whole.
And like Alistair, have you been approaching social media to sort of do some research as well?
Majority of my profiles are off the radar, but I do start online with some vague form of connection, and and in true rock and roll spirit, somebody knows somebody who knows somebody.
Word of mouth, fantastic. Yeah. You're listening to The Living Room on 938 Live with me, Justine Moss, and I'm having the pleasure of speaking with 4 people on The Living Room this morning. It's presenter Cheryl Fox and producers Min Min, Rudy Osman and Alistair Ung, and we're talking about a new series called Old School, a new series from the On the Red Dot, which is airing tonight, by the way, on Channel 5 at 9 p.m, Channel News Asia on Sunday at 10:30 p.m. We'll come back and talk more on The Living Room.
The Living Room on 938 Live. Time now to rejoin The Living Room on 938 Live.
Welcome back into the Living Room on 938 Live with me, Justine Moss, and I'm speaking with presenter Cheryl Fox and producers Min Min, Rudy and Alistair about Old School, this ongoing series which features On the Red Dot. And we've been talking about Min Min's episode, which is about food, wonderful old traditions. We've also been talking to Alistair about his particular episode, which I think did you say it was airing in a couple of weeks' time, Alistair?
Yes, in 2 weeks' time.
2 weeks' time,
yes.
Okay. And also we've been talking to Rudy as well about music, and Alistair's is about just collectibles, and it's in that particular that wonderful bus story as well. We're really looking forward to those episodes coming up. Challenges of filming those particular episodes, guys. Obviously, Min Min, you talked about the challenge of actually getting Uncle Sher to come and be filmed, but were there any other challenges that you faced?
Well, first of all, it was like an overnight shoot because he wakes up at 3 a.m. So we kind of camped underneath his flat waiting for him to to get up. And his son was like, "Oh, I don't really know what time he gets up. He just wakes up when he gets up and then he goes to work. So he's supposed to open the coffee shop at 4 o'clock. But sometimes if he wakes up early, he can't sleep, and then he would appear at 3:30. So we're like, okay, we'll camp down there like from 2:30. So we waited at his HDB block, went up to his house, and then waited for him to get out, and we just filmed him coming out, and then he bikes actually from his home to the coffee shop. Mm-hmm. So we had to install a small camera on his bike.
He's in his 70s.
Yes, he's in his 70s.
Keeping
and
fit.
He was like he wasn't super cooperative, so you have to keep like cajoling him. And he was like, who are these two guys trying to do things to my bike? And he was like waiting for them, and then the camera didn't work, so we had to like find a new way of configuring it. So he was like waiting there with his bike for us.
And how many cups of coffee with butter did you consume?
I avoided, I only tried that once. The other times I ordered toast and normal teh-peng and all that stuff.
Yeah, wonderful,
because I felt that.
But that wasn't your only profile. You had another one as well.
Yes. I have another one. He is the owner of this Teochew bakery, and he does like tau sapia, bean pastry and all that, peanut candies by hand. That was.
He does everything on his own.
Wow.
Yeah, he's
from
the only
scratch.
Entire bakery on his own from scratch.
That's amazing. And that's Ko Sun Liang, isn't it? Yeah.
Yes, he's also in his late 60s. And I was quite surprised when I got there because I thought, he has a place to live and all that. But then he was telling me that that's his home. And then I thought, maybe he has a living quarters behind or something. So I said, oh, can I take a look? And then he was like, no, I just sleep right here where he was where he was making his pastries. So at night he would flip down this wooden board which becomes a bait frame. So it's actually like a huge metal table kind of thing where he makes his pastries. So he puts this board over it, and then he has his mattress stored at the back. He would like pull it out with his pillow, and that's where he sleeps.
Fantastic. Oh my gosh, I just hope that these traditions don't go out. They stay here within Singapore, whether the family takes it on, the sons, the daughters, the grandchildren.
But sadly, a lot of the profiles that we had the chance to interview, a lot of them say that the children aren't interested. So they say, I will work till the day I die, but come that day, I have no successor. And chances are I have to close shop if I fall sick or if I'm no longer...
Yeah, that's sad,
so
isn't
that's
it?
sad.
Yeah, there's
That's
traditions.
really sad. Next week's episode is going to be about vintage furniture. And we met some really interesting people along the lines of Alistair's episode, where we found a vintage furniture collector. He had such a passion for it. Only 31 years old, though.
Wow.
And he basically has turned his home into a store. So you actually, if you're interested in buying anything that he has on sale, you head to his home. And his father would probably be there reading the newspapers. His father's in his 70s. And I was even asking him, I said, are you fine with people walking in and out? He said, it's okay, I've gotten used to it. And he sells all sort of stuff, all the old school stuff that we grew up with. The backlit switches.
Oh
the
my
ones
gosh.
that you would find in your schools when
Yep.
you were in primary school, perhaps. Singer sewing machines. They have the old school ice kacang makers. They've got all these vintage furniture that a lot of people would remember from their grandparents' place.
Oh, real collector's items. How
Spittoons.
nostalgic.
He sells spittoons that were made in Singapore back in
Wow.
the days when we were manufacturing all these items.
Well, I look forward to that episode as well, and especially tonight because I love food. So, Min, I'm very much looking forward to seeing that. I wish we had more time to talk. I don't know where the time flies, but I've been speaking with presenter Cheryl Fox, producers Min, Rudy and Alistair about Old School, and it's actually airs tonight, Channel 5 at 9 p.m. Go check it out. And then Channel News Asia, if you missed tonight, Channel News Asia on Sunday at 10:30 p.m. And then Alistair's episode next week or in a couple of weeks' time, followed by Rudy's as well. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you
Living
for
Room.
having
Thank
us.
you.
Jazzing up your day with a touch of soul. The Living Room on 938 Live.